Yeah. Good day. We hope that you're able to rest sa 2 weeks na break natin. So I'm Nicolette Lampa, and together with Blessie Jayne Lampa, we are your reporters for Reading 12, The Myth of Sisyphus. Next. To fully understand the reading, it would be helpful to know the author, the time when he wrote the reading, and the reason why he wrote the reading. So, the reading was written by a French novelist, essayist, and playwright Albert Camus. He was born on November 7, 1983 and died on January 4, 1960. The Myth of Sisyphus was written during the fall of France. And due to this event, Camus was able to realize the absurdity of life. With that, he wrote The Myth of Sisyphus to address society's problem of suicide. And to fully understand the reading, we must first understand what absurdity means. So according to Merriam-Webster, absurdity is the state or condition in which human beings exist in an irrational and meaningless universe and in which human life has no ultimate meaning. Sa reading naman, absurdity was defined differently by Sartre and Albert Camus. Para kay Sartre, absurdity belongs to the world prior to activity of consciousness, while for Camus naman, he defines absurdity as a direct consequences of God, and without God, discrepancy between human aspirations and the world is acute.
Ayan, thank you, Nicolette. So, let's talk about naman yung part ng essay about absurdity and suicide. Pero, first, we want to know your thoughts about this one. You may answer this and put your answer in the comment section where this video was posted. So, let me read. If life is meaningless, is it not worth living anymore? So, ulitin ko, if life is meaningless, is it not worth living anymore? If there is no point, meaning, nor purpose in life, will it remain worth it or is it not worth living anymore? Kayo ba, kung wala nang saysay ang buhay, pipiliin niyo po ba na yun nga, mabuhay? So, next naman, dito sa section na ito ng reading natin, si Camus nag-suggest siya ng 2 methods of thought. So, the first one is the Lampa and the second one is Don Quixote. So, sa first one, ito yung truism, evidence-based ito. So, basically, sinasabi niya, if life is not worth living, then people are better to die. Ganyan. So, based on my understanding, this means more toward meaninglessness. Next naman, yung Don Quixote na method. So, this is about lyrism or giving meaning to something that is meaningless. So, ito kasing person na to, he was infamous for seeing a windmill as a giant and then fighting this windmill. So, kumbaga, he gave meaning to something that was meaningless and then he got killed. So, these 2 methods was what Camus meant when he said that he knows people who died because they did not see the purpose in life, and he knows people na some people who died or got killed for the things they gave meaning to. Ayan. So let us know more about what he meant. Diba? What is suicide nga ba? Suicide was described as the problem of their society back then. Diba? Nabanggit nga ito ni Nicolette kanina. According to Camus, it was a confession of people that life is not worth living and is caused by many factors. And most of the time, sabi nga ni Camus, sinasabi na, kapag may nagpakamatay siya due to personal reasons or feelings. However, there is no clear equation behind the factors of suicide. Diba? Sabi nga ni Camus, according to him, there are almost always unverifiable reasons or causes. Link naman sa suicide ay yung absurdity or the feeling that life is meaningless, or yung feeling of meaninglessness, because people naturally feel that life has a value, na may importance siya, ganyan, when they realize na yung ginagawa nila is only routine, ganyan, paulit-ulit na lang, habit na lang siya, life then becomes meaningless or hopeless. And the question, what's the point of doing this or that, is the feeling of absurdity. So, linked din sa absurdity, yung feeling ng exile, diba? In a world where the majority feel that their lives are meaningful and living is worth it, absurdists feel a stranger or alien dun sa world na ito. Moreover, absurdity was also described as a divorce between man and his life. In relation to all of this, Cam asked the question, is suicide the solution ba? So there are two outcomes, yung yes or no. Diba? For some people kasi, given that life is meaningless or pointless, life is not worth living anymore, diba? Pero for some people, their actions do not reflect their thoughts because some people who view life as meaningless still choose to live. But some who feel that there is meaning to life opt for suicide. So kumbaga may contradiction, diba? Pero sabi ni Camus, itong contradiction na to, it does not mean naman na absurdity and suicide are not related, na walang relationship yung dalawang ito. Sabi niya lang, rather, it shows na yung people's instinct to live is greater than their instinct to die. For Camus said that we get into the habit of living before acquiring the habit of thinking. However, aside sa suicide, ito yung ginagawa ng mga tao, ito yung solution na ginagawa nila. They try to solve absurdity through the use of hope or the act of avoiding the consequences or feelings of absurdity. So people avoid absurdity by thinking of another life. Ganyan, nag-hope sila for another life or nag-hope sila for a better future or tomorrow. Ganyan. So by blind faith, meaninglessness is being denied. Ayan. So, sabi nga dito, does its absurdity require one to escape it through hope or suicide? Kumbaga, does life's absurdity require a person to escape it, to escape life, or to escape absurdity through hope and suicide? Sabi ni Camus, hindi niya ina-urge or nire-recommend sa mga tao na mag-suicide or mag-hope sila. Instead, di ba, he aims for a third alternative. Kumbaga, gusto kasi ni Camus na malaman if people could live life without trying to solve or struggle against yung absurdity. So instead of thinking that life has no meaning anymore, ganyan, so running away from absurdity through suicide or hope, yung solution, sabi ni Camus, stay and live with the feeling of absurdity.
Ayan. For the second part of the reading naman, it talks about the absurd walls. So this section explains absurdity as a feeling, absurdity in relation to time, and absurdity in relation to intellect. First, absurdity as a feeling. So people feel absurdity when they start to realize that the things that they value and do are meaningless. So nabanggit din ito ni Blessie kanina na kapag paulit-ulit na lang ang ginagawa ng tao, at wala nang bago sa ginagawa nila, nafe-feel nila na yung life nila ay meaningless. Nafe-feel nila na yung life ay absurd. So kapag paulit-ulit na lang yung routine, tulad na kunwari, gagawin mo, gigising ka, pagkagising mo, magbe-breakfast ka, tapos mag-work ka or mag-aaral ka, tapos kakain ka ulit, magpapahinga, mag-work ulit, matutulog, tapos uulit na naman. So parang wala nagbabago, parang yun nangyayari, araw-araw, paulit-ulit na lang. So kapag ganito daw, mas mafe-feel ng tao na absurd nga yung life. For example, kayo, nagtatrabaho kayo sa mall bilang isang receptionist sa loob ng elevator. Isipin nyo, ilang oras kayong nasa loob ng elevator. Tapos, yung ginagawa nyo lang, sa buong araw, pipindutin nyo lang yung button kung anong floor bababa yung mga tao. Kung magsasalita man siguro kayo, good morning, good afternoon, ganun lang. Pero wala rin talaga kayong kausap. Isipin nyo sa loob ng 1 year, ganyan lang yung gagawin nyo. Matutuwa ba kayo sa buhay nyo? Would you still be able to find the meaning of your life kung paulit-ulit na lang yung gagawin nyo? So yun yung pinapoint ni Albert Camus. Next. So, absurdity in relation to time naman. So, for Albert Camus, ilang beses na rin nabanggit na hindi niya gusto yung concept ng hope as it only see this na escape siya sa absurdity ng life. Kasi, para kay Albert Camus, ayaw niyang hanapan ng solution yung absurdity kasi parang escape lang daw ito. Gusto niya i-accept, i-embrace ng tao na yung absurdity part talaga siya ng buhay. Kasi yung hope daw na ito, parang pansalamantala lang siya na ginhawa. Tapos darating din naman sa time na ma-realize din naman ng tao na yung hope nga na pinanghahawakan nila ay malayo talaga sa katotohanan. Pangalawa naman, nature as a sign of absurdity of the human life. At dahil sa dalawang reason. Yung unang reason, sobrang tagal na nag-exist ng nature even bago pa mag-exist ang humanity. At pangalawa naman, kaya mag-exist ng nature kahit walang humanity. Yung idea, masasabi na yung buhay ng isang tao ay maikli lang, lalo na kung i-compare ito sa nature na magmula bago pa tayo mag-exist, andun na sila. Tapos yung human care, yung effort na binubuhos natin ay sobrang liit lamang and insignificant. Pangatlo naman na point niya ay walang saysay ang buhay dahil namamatay din naman. Kasi para sa kanya, masasabi lang daw na meaningful yung isang bagay kapag nag-last ito forever. Next naman, absurdity in relation to intellect. So nabanggit sa reading na ang mga human mind daw, it has a nostalgia for unity, and to understand is to unify. Kaya lang, hindi daw ito ganoon natutupad kasi maraming differences sa mundo. So, dahil dito, hindi nagko-conform yung gusto mangyari ng tao na magkaroon nga ng unity. And explain din dito na yung nostalgia for unity daw, yun yung time na hindi pa mulat yung mga tao. So, kapag ganon, na hindi pa mulat yung tao, wala pa silang concept ng absurdity. Pangalawa naman, ito ay ang search for truth. There are truths but no truth. So ano nga ba tinutukoy dito? At ano ang pinagkaiba ng truth na may S at truth na walang S? So yung halimbawa dito ay yung science. Yung science, kaya niyang i-explain kung paano nabuo yung Earth, ganon. Pero hindi niya kayang sagutin kung bakit nabuo yung Earth. So yung truths dito, yung with S, ito yung explanation kung paano nag-exist yung isang bagay. At yung truth naman na walang S, ito yung kawalan ng kasagutan sa isang kawalan ng kasagutan sa isang bagay kung bakit nag-exist. Yun. So, the intellect can only confirm that the world is absurd. Yung pinapoint ni Albert Camus din ay ang absurdity daw ay ito yung patuloy na paghahanap ng tao sa isang truth at ang desire for reason to understand the irrational nature of the world.
So yan, let's proceed naman sa philosophical suicide. Pag-usapan naman natin ito. Sabi dito, sa part na ito, yung absurdity daw, it comes from the comparison of two incomparable ideas. For example, kapag sinabi ko sa inyo na may isang doktor na respectable, ganyan, sa field niya, kilala siya talaga, tanyag siya, mahusay siya. Tapos kapag sinabi ko, itong same doctor na ito, he also sleeps with his sister. So, we will say that this claim is absurd. Bakit? Kasi nga, it's impossible. It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. It's contradictory. So, moreover, if a swordsman, ito example din ito na binigay dun sa reading, if a swordsman will go against a group of swordsmen, the situation is absurd. Diba? Yung situation ng dalawang elements na ito ay absurd. So, if related to philosophical suicide, this is the inconsistency between our desires for a purpose in life and the blatant lack of purpose that this reality has for us. Kumbaga, what people desire cannot be satisfied by the reality in this world. So according to Camus, man and the world are not the absurd elements. Kumbaga, yung presence nila together, yung tension between them, yun yung absurd, yun yung meaningless. So, yung absurdity rin, ito yung isa sa mga truths ni Camus. Truths, di ba? Ito nabanggit na ito ni Nicolette. Kasi nga, he believes na there is no one true. Moreover, if people will carry absurdity until, as he describes, their bitter end, the consequences will be the total absence of hope na hindi naman katulad or kasing tulad ng despair, yung contemptible rejection na hindi equivalent sa renunciation, and yung conscious dissatisfaction, which is not to be compared to immature unrest. So basically, yung point lang naman here ay may philosophical suicide kasi again, may inconsistency sa desire ng tao for existential purpose or yung purpose sa life. Tapos hindi ito maibigay ng reality ng mundo. Tapos sa part din ng philosophical suicide na nag-cite kasi si Camus ng various existential philosophers. Kumbaga meron din sa ibang mga ibang scholars na nagsasabi na nirelate niya ito sa irrationals, ganyan. So, he acknowledged yung thoughts ng mga philosophers na ito, nag-agree siya dun sa mga punto na iba Pero he also noted na yung mga sinabi nila, they all revolved around solving and struggling against the feeling of absurdity. And this is not what Camus wanted, di ba? Gusto nga niya na i-accept natin yung absurdity and not struggle against it. So he called what the philosophers stated as the leap, as they used yung faith to solve meaninglessness. So ito, summarize ko na lang kasi masyadong mahaba. So si Jaspers, ang ano niya, yung absurdity daw becomes God. Tapos yung lack ng explanation sa irrationality, nagpo-point siya dun sa existence ng God. Tapos si Shestov, sabi niya, yung ano daw, yung absurdity, it points to a supreme being's existence kasi nga, sabi niya dito, where human sees no solution, their God is, di ba? Nabanggit pa dito na kung daw yung mga tao, alam nila lahat ng solution sa mundo, bakit pa may need sa God? Ganon. Tapos sabi ni Camus, nagdi-disagree siya na yung absurdity daw or yung meaninglessness is the way or route to God. Tapos si Kierkegaard, he wants to be cured sa absurdity by the use of faith. Kasi si Kierkegaard, in-acknowledge niya na yes, may limitation yung kanyang human intellect and he wants to escape the antinomy of human condition. Si Husserl naman, ito talaga, natumbok na talaga niya sana yung absurd na gusto ni Camus. Kaso, ang ano niya dito, kumbaga phenomenology touches daw yung absurd as it aims to know or describe the experiences, di ba? Personal experiences of people and then generally declines the world. So it affirms yung absurd kasi nga it shows you different truths, di ba? Several truths and not one truth. Pero kasi si Husserl, dinescribe niyo yung encounters of the world as essences that fall under abstract polytheism. Again, di ba, gumamit ulit siya ng religion, ganyan. So, not one explanation, but several ones, so extratemporal essences. So, basically, ito, every object daw becomes, or every explanation becomes each person's God. So, this is seen by Camus as a solution to absurdity, which is not valid kasi nga, hindi naman siya naghahanap ng solution eh. Ayaw niya tayong kumbaga, maghanap ng solution or mag-struggle against absurdity. So, Camus' point is not to escape the absurdity, but to live with it.
The fourth section of the reading talks about absurd freedom, wherein he explains the two certainties in life, acceptance of absurdity, and the three consequences of the absurd. Next. According to Camus, there are only two certainties in life, and ito ay ang desire ng human beings to know the truth and to have unity with mankind, at ang impossibility of reducing this world to a rational and reasonable principle. Next. Ayun, the only freedom is the rejection of the old illusion of freedom. So para kay Camus, yung tunay daw na freedom ay kapag na-embrace na ng tao yung absurdity sa kanyang buhay, na-accept na niya na part talaga ito ng buhay. Hindi na siya naghahanap ng solution para maka-escape dito. Kasi it frees them from false hope and belief. So para kasi sa kanya, yung absurdity dapat ina-accept nga, hindi tinatakasan. Kasi yung hope at suicide, hindi daw ito yung pinakamaganda na gawin. Kasi gusto nga niya, wag nang gumawa ng solution yung tao. Gusto niya, i-accept na lang na part talaga ng buhay yung absurdity. And yung hope nga and suicide, nagiging escape lang sila. Tapos, nabanggit din niya na mayroon daw kasi tayong false idea ng concept ng freedom. Kasi naisip ng mga tao na yung freedom, ina-allow niya tayo na maging kung ano yung gusto nating maging sa buhay. Pero yung totoo nito, nire-restrict nila tayo. Kasi nai-instill sa utak natin na kung ano yung kailangan natin maging, based doon sa standard, based doon sa expectation sa role natin, sa expectation ng society. Next. What counts is not the best living, but the most living, sabi ni Albert Camus. So para kay Albert Camus, people should strive for quantity of experience rather than quality. Kasi daw, yung experience kaya nating i-quantify. Pero yung ways para masabi na quality yung experience undermines by the certainty of death. So para sa kanya, mas okay daw, mas mainam daw kapag yung individual nabuhay siya with full awareness of the absurd. Nabuhay siya na ina-accept, in-embrace, hindi tinatakasan yung yung absurdity ng buhay. Kaysa daw sa nabuhay ka nga ng matagal pero wala kang ginawa kundi takasan yung absurdity ng life. Next. Yung lesson na banggit niya ay ang 3 consequences of absurd at ito ay yung revolt, freedom, and passion. So yung revolt against being defeated by the absurd by keeping it in constant view. So ayan, paulit-ulit na nabanggit niya na ayaw na niya humanap na yung tao ng solution sa absurdity. Gusto niya i-accept na lang daw natin, i-embrace kasi part talaga ito ng buhay. Pangalawa naman, freedom. Freedom from false illusions that they used to give their lives meaning. So they get to know the real meaning of freedom na kung saan hindi na nila kailangan mag-conform dun sa concept ng freedom ng society. Ayan. Last, passion to live in such a way that gives total commitment to the present moment because death is inevitable and it is meaningless to keep on holding sa thought ng future. So, mas gusto ni Albert Camus na mabuhay tayo sa present, hindi yung nag-hold tayo dun sa, ay, nangyari to kasi nakaplan na to at meron magandang mangyayari sa future, ganun. Ayaw niya ng ganun kasi gusto niya makita natin yung importance ng present.
Thank you, Colette. So, pag-usapan natin yung last part ng reading natin. Yun nga yung myth of Sisyphus. So, well, ito, various stories kasi tell the life of Sisyphus, diba? However, one thing is clear, and that is how he went against the gods. Diba? Sabi nga kasi, he knew the gods' secrets. Ito yung kinuwento ni Camus dun sa reading. And he used it to help his people. Tapos, he also bound death. Ganyan. Nung nalaman yun, however, ni Pluto, syempre, he sent Mercury to free death kasi nga daughter niya ito, diba? From Sisyphus. Tapos, so, as Sisyphus was near his death, ganyan, ngayon, tinest niya yung love ng wife niya and asked her to bury him. Tapos nung ginawa yon, parang na-disappoint siya. He was enraged kasi nga yung actions niya, it appeared not to be of love. Ganon. Parang yung actions ng babae, it doesn't show na love niya sa Sisyphus. So fast forward, he was underworld, ganyan, with Pluto. Tapos nakiusap siya na balik siya muna dito sa world, dito sa earth, para pagalitan niya yung asawa niya. Tapos nung pinayagan siya, and nandito na siya sa world, sa earth, nakalimutan niya yung initial plan niya, nakalimutan niya yung purpose niya, na hanapin yung wife niya at pagalitan. Nagpakasasa siya sa joys ng world. Nag-enjoy siya talaga, ganyan. Tapos nalaman yun ng mga gods and they sent so many signs, ganyan. Nagalit sila and na dapat bumalik na si Sisyphus sa underworld. Pero si Sisyphus, dinisregard niya yun at talagang nag-enjoy siya dito. Nagpakasasa siya, kumbaga. And when the gods knew about this, they snatched him and made him push yung huge rock up the hill, diba? As it rolled down due to its weight. So, kumbaga, what does this imply? No? Si Sisyphus, he went against the gods by being tasked to push a rock on the hill every time it rolled down. Kasi itong rock na ito, kumbaga, mabigat na mabigat, ganyan. Tapos, si Sisyphus, he was tasked to push it up the hill. Tapos, kapag nasa taas na siya ng hill, mag-roll down na yun. Paulit-ulit niyang pinupush yun pataas. At paulit-ulit din siyang bababa para i-push lang ito pataas. So, di ba, yung situation niya ay absurd. It's meaningless. It's pointless. That is why he was called the absurd hero. Di ba? He is called the absurd hero as his scorn of the gods, his hatred, diba, of death, and his passion for life earned him the punishment of pushing the rock, diba? He did all of these things, and kumbaga, it is absurd because all of these things na ginawa niya ay for nothing lamang. However, according kay Camus, he wants us to see na si Sisyphus daw, naging happy siya, diba? As Sisyphus accepted his fate, he also found happiness and joy in doing what he was tasked to do. So, pero diba, paano nga, kumbaga, how can accepting the absurdity be linked to having happiness or joy? Diba? His situation only actually became tragic because he has consciousness and awareness of the futility of his faith. Aware siya eh, diba? Alam niya yung nangyayari sa kanya. At ganun din sa atin. Tragic yung dating ng life ni Sisyphus. Tragic yung naging punishment na nangyari kay Sisyphus kasi aware tayo, conscious tayo na nakakapagod. Parang pagkatapos niya namang ma-push yan up the hill, mag-roll down naman yun eh. Parang paulit-ulit lang. Futile yung attempt. Diba? For happiness, ganyan. Pero, nakumpara ito ni Camus, diba? Like Oedipus, whose fate only became tragic when he became aware na siya pala yung pumatay daw sa father niya, tapos pinakasalan niya pa yung mother niya. But before that, he was actually happy, diba? So both Sisyphus and Oedipus were happy because all is well pa rin. Sisyphus might have experienced melancholy, yes, kapag ka naaalala niya, yun nga, naaalala niya yung past life niya or nag-hope siya for a better future or for happiness, diba? But his melancholy ends when he accepted his fate. And yun yung pinapoint out ni Camus na i-accept natin yung absurdity, ganyan, not to hope for a better tomorrow, parang ganyan. So accepting the absurdity of life leads to lucidity, which makes Sisyphus or any other people in this matter above their fate. So the mere fact na ina-accept ng mga tao, ina-accept natin yung weaknesses natin, yung shortcomings natin, yung failures natin, yung futility ng mga attempts natin, yung absurdity ng life, yung pointlessness nito, yung conscious awareness na ito, kumbaga, it leads to lucidity and that in itself makes us above yung situation or yung fate natin. So to conclude, ayan, we live our own life, our thoughts and actions dictate how our life will be. So there is no point in denying and going against absurdity. Happiness will be felt if we accept it, because with acknowledgement comes understanding, and understanding puts us above our situation. And actually, we are like Sisyphus who are working aimlessly in a world na ang hirap-hirap hanapin ng purpose, ang hirap-hirap hanapin ng meaning ng life. However, like Sisyphus, may we accept our fate and not try to escape our failures. May we accept our failures the same way we accept our triumphs. So let us not be too hard on ourselves. Ayan. Thank you so much for listening.